Coach, kind of first question for you guys. Obviously, coming off a couple of really good road wins, it felt like maybe more than any other time this year, the ball movement was kind of at its best. Was that something you saw as well? That it just seems like maybe even without Cedric, that the team's distributing a little bit more and kind of getting everyone involved.
Yeah, we're definitely starting to take a step in that direction. The last few games, we've gotten more assists. We were actually a few short. We restatted some of the assists after the game. I think we were left a little short after that Boise State game. Lawan might have had 9. Um, no, I think the guys are starting to understand the concepts a little better. They're understanding the flow. We had 30 pretty good minutes of basketball. There was that kind of 18 to 8 minute stretch in the second half where we didn't have the balls up and around as well, and we didn't share it as well. But we're starting to take steps. We're not quite there, but I think the ball is definitely moving.
And then I think obviously, kind of the lingering question is just kind of what the status of Cedric is and kind of, when do you expect him back? Do you expect him back? Just kind of where are things at with him injury wise?
We're gonna have a lot more answers by next week. I just hope we can get some clarity before I start saying what I hope for and what we might happen.
All right, Austin.
Hey, Coach. Just kind of as a whole right now, how do you view the way your team has performed through this non-conference slate? I mean, 8-2, some really good wins, being able to obviously perform without Cedric. Just kind of how are you feeling right now?
Feeling good about our progress. Like I think the main thing that we've been teaching is like not everything in each game is all bad. Not everything in each game is all good. We had a big game versus Boise State, won against a great team, but we still have a bunch of stuff we got to work on. And just because we lost versus SMU doesn't mean that we had all these different things to fix, unlike any other game. And so we're sticking with the process. We've got a long way to go. We're not trying to be the best team in December. We're trying to be the best team in March.
That being said, how important are these last 3 games of non-conference play before you get a little bit of a break and then dive into WCC stuff?
Well, I mean, we've always kind of taken the approach that the next game is the most important game of the year. And we had a good film session today. We gave the guys a little time off, healed their bodies up, and really the most important day of the year is tomorrow that we go practice and have the right kind of mindset and get better. And um, it's such a fragile deal. Like you go lose a game you're not supposed to, and then another team sneaks up on you. It's a hard schedule that we got, and so we just got to keep taking it one day at a time.
All right, Greg.
Oh, there we go. Hey, David, just to make sure, the CBS broadcast of the game on Saturday said that Cedric was scheduled for shoulder surgery. One, is that right? And two, has he had that yet?
It's right. He hasn't had it yet.
Yeah.
It's just it kind of depends what it looks like, and how serious it'll be.
Okay, gotcha. My other question, Lawan has 6 assists in each of his last 2 games. He had the one pass, I think, to Ethan the other day, kind of in traffic to the rim. Where is that part of Lawan's game at? And how much is that like a conscious thing for him?
I think it comes with him being assertive. When he's playing assertive and he's presenting himself to the ball and he's trying to go score, he's a natural passer. And I just think it's all about consistency with him. He's had a day in practice with not even the same, like usually in a game you have 70 offensive possessions if you play 40 minutes. I mean, he had a practice where there was like 35 possessions on his team and he had 10 assists and 0 turnovers. So like he can really, really pass when he's locked in on that. I think the last 4 or 5 games, especially since Cedric's been out, he's had to learn how to assert himself more, how to present himself to the ball. I've had to put him in better positions to score. Like I didn't do a good job calling plays and calling sets for him up until the last game, really. But we're just learning. Like he's got a ton of room to grow. And like you said, 6 assists. Well, I'll talk to Jim here later and see how we do that. I don't know how to do that at Washington State, but we counted him for 9. And we love him as a playmaker. We love being able to play through him in the post and the perimeter. And I just think we're just going to ask him for more consistency now.
Any other questions, for Coach? All right, we'll throw it back to Austin here, and then Jamie to follow.
Coach, just kind of what have you thought about Dane's play so far this year? He seems to have really gotten comfortable, even more comfortable that we saw in Cheney of an outside shooter and just maybe a bit more on the defensive end. At least that's what our takeaways have been. What have you seen from him?
Um, his energy and toughness has really been more apparent this year. And he's always been a tough guy, and he's always been able to do all these things. I think him getting a little more confident, letting the game come to him a little bit more, has shown his ability to post up and his ability to defend. I feel like, early in the season and last year, he would gamble a little bit too much on defense, put himself in foul trouble. Obviously, he's had some foul trouble this year as well, because of that. And same thing offensively. Like he's always been a great shooter, but he can pass, he can put the ball on the floor and score in the post. And I think just settling in and knowing that his shots will come has helped him. I still think he's got room to grow. He was either our leading scorer. I think he was our second leading scorer throughout the summer and fall in practice. He was one of our leading activity guys as far as deflections and steals, and he's a really good player. He's starting to settle in and get more comfortable out there, and I think he's another guy that is playing well, but I think can take another jump.
Jamie?
Just one more follow up on said. Kind of when was it decided that surgery was going to be the best path? And then I know you said next week you'll have a better idea, but have there been any preliminary conversations on what the future might look like if he isn't able to go again this season?
No, we just kind of talked about how we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. As far as when we want to get all the information and get all that done before we make any decisions and start talking about the future. He's done a heck of a job up to this point. Like before he got hurt, his numbers were pretty crazy. We were winning. He was starting to get more comfortable out there, and hopefully we can get him back.
Since he's gone down, it feels like, especially the starting five you guys are deploying, everyone has stepped up. I mean, Nate's averaging 13 and a half and 6 assists. Lawan, we just talked about, 14 and a half and quote unquote 4 assists with an adjustment maybe coming. Zay and Ethan both in double figures. How have you seen kind of those starting five really take the reins, especially missing some other key bench pieces as well, and kind of a lot of the onus being put on them along with Tomas, ND, and Parker?
Yeah, I think they've rallied around each other, and really started to understand each other's strengths and weaknesses, which has allowed them to play a little more confident. I think in particular, Isaiah and Nate are starting to figure things out, how the offense flows a little bit better. It just takes time. Dane and Lawan and Ethan, they're all in a different role than they were last year. And so, especially when Cedric got hurt, yes, we flow and we have a very open offense, but there's also a lot of it that's determined by the way we practice and what the things that we try to emphasize as coaches. And so obviously if you have an NBA player on your team, you're going to try to get him touches, you're going to try to put him in situations where he can be assertive. And so when you lose that, there was an adjustment period where we had to start showing these guys where they can be more assertive, and I had to start tweaking a few things offensively and defensively to put those guys in those positions a little bit better. So I think there's a little bit of a learning curve. Hopefully we're progressing out of that and just taking the right steps for the season now.
Time for a couple more here. We'll give it back to Greg.
I was curious about the turnover numbers. I know that was more of an issue earlier on in the season. I think it was 13 against Boise State the other day. Obviously, you would rather have zero turnovers every game, but 13, is that like an okay number, or like where do you want that, like realistically?
Yeah, I think 13 is probably still a little bit on the high side. Want to try to keep it below 12. Like that's kind of the easy goal at the pace we play. 10 is a great game, but like for us, it's just kind of what do the turnovers look like? Where do we get them? We got some silly ones late game that we definitely can't have. We had some unforced ones during that I think it was a 10-minute stretch in the second half where we scored 4 points, and so we had 5 turnovers in that stretch, and a couple of them were unforced. So just trying to take the silly ones out and make sure we're doing ones that have a purpose and there's a calculated risk on it.
Is that like more decision making on like an individual level, or kind of what is behind those, and how are you kind of getting those turned around?
Yeah, there's decision making on an individual level and on a team level. Like you can watch some of them where we get stagnant in the first 15, 20 seconds of the offensive possession. And then we're kind of forced to make a home run play with 10, 12 seconds left. And turnovers can happen that way. Turnovers can happen when you're being a little, I don't know. I felt like we scored 2 buckets early in the second half and almost had well, the whole game we had been like fighting for every possession. Every possession we wanted to fight for a great one. We wanted to fight for a paint touch, and we almost took our foot off the gas and started taking the early ones and taking the easier ones, um, and that hurt us a little bit. So there's a bunch of stuff we watched as a team. We talked about it. It's not a black and white thing for the most part, and we're just trying to make sure the guys understand when and why.
Wrap up here with Austin.
Yeah, coach, just while you're down a couple guys, kind of a two-parter, I guess. One, how challenging does that make your job in terms of rotations and adjusting lineups? And two, how do you think the guys have handled not getting fatigued, as maybe some guys would play more minutes than they typically would if you had a full roster?
Yeah, the fatigue thing is big. Like we try to do a pretty good job about being aware of our guys' load and not pushing them too hard physically. Hopefully you can avoid injuries that way. I don't know. Obviously we haven't done a good enough job on that. Um, but I think like we talked about after the SMU game, people would probably say that SMU out toughed us, maybe played harder than us. Um, After the Nevada and Boise State games, I think most people walked away from those games, including us, thinking that we were the team that played harder and more physical. And that's not by mistake. Like we practice during the season, we compete, we go hard, we're focused on development. We're not just trying to get through a season and be who we are. We're trying to get better during the season and really push ourselves. So our guys have been great. They studied for finals the last couple of days. They've been working hard. We had just shooting today as far as a team thing. I show up at 9 a.m. There's 2 guys in the gym. I come back as I'm walking through to get lunch at 11. There's 3 or 4 more guys in the gym. After practice, there's a guy shooting around. And it's just like our guys are in here trying to get better. And I think physically they're feeling good after the couple days off. And we just got to continue to be aware of that, trying not to get them hurt, but also like we're going to compete and get better. And that's just part of the deal sometimes.
All right, we'll let Greg sneak one more quick question in.
Thank you, Jim. I was just curious if you have any update on Ree or Marcus's status.
Uh, Not, I think we'll have a more like official answer here within the next week on both of them, but they're going to be out for the foreseeable future. Like they'll be out for a little while.